Here's Brody Brazil.
You know, even as of this morning, it just kind of felt like the biggest White Sox story of this week was going to be and had to be the team getting burned, I guess you could say, by Chicago Fire FC. That's the MLS soccer team, which kind of swooped in and made an arrangement with the 78. That's the development where the White Sox were eventually hoping to build a stadium. Instead, the soccer team got in first, and a lot of people wondered and figured, well, maybe that's the end of the White Sox chances of building a brand new ballpark in what would be a dream home, a forever site and home on the South Loop of Chicago. So that kind of black eye going for them this week, you had to think that might be their biggest headline until today. It was announced that the White Sox have not been sold and are not officially going to be sold, like absolutely, but they do have now an agreement to sell the team. Jerry Reinsdorf, at the end of this decade, has a window that opens up to sell to the Ishbia family. All the details came in an official statement by the White Sox, and you really have to kind of dig in here because it does spell everything out, but there's just a lot of moving parts, which we will eventually digest at the end of this statement. It begins like this. The Chicago White Sox today announced that Jerry Reinsdorf and Justin Ishbia have reached a long-term investment agreement that establishes a framework for Ishbia to obtain a future controlling interest in the White Sox. Not an agreement necessarily, but the framework, an arrangement. A lot of different words we could use here, but this is not an official sale whatsoever. This is the framework of how it would eventually be done. As part of this agreement, Ishbia will make capital infusions. Yeah, he's going to start chipping in a lot more money into the White Sox as a limited partner in 2025 and 2026 that will be used to pay down existing debt and support ongoing team operations. So Ishbia is going to start paying into this a little bit more, and that's going to kind of open up his window to purchase more of this team, to have the controlling interest, so to speak. It's something Jerry Reinsdorf has had now for, more than 40 years. This really does represent a changing of the guard in Chicago, but only if it actually happens. Like, we need to get to that part of this statement. So this is just the framework. The agreement provides that from 2029 to 2033, 4 to 5 year window there, Reinsdorf will have the option to sell the controlling interest to Ishbia. Basically, Ishbia is not lining up for this to be guaranteed. He's lining up and paying more and buying into this more. He's already a smaller investor in the team. I'll talk more about that in just a second. He's trying to have the controlling interest, but to do even that, to get this opportunity, he's going to have to pay into it a lot more. After the 2034 season, Ishbia will have the option to acquire the controlling interest. In the event of any such future transaction, all limited partners of the Sox would have the opportunity to sell to Ishbia at that time. In addition to Justin Ishbia, his brother Matt Ishbia and father Jeff Ishbia will also be significant investors. There is no assurance that any such future transaction will occur, and in no event will such a transaction take place before 2029. It's interesting, like, this is very specific. The window of opportunity for the negotiations to happen, the option for Reinsdorf to sell, and what happens after the 2034 season. Like, who knows if life is even guaranteed for any or all of us to that point. But we're looking down the road, and this is kind of the window that they have drawn up of a potential transaction. Until such time, the Reinsdorf family will continue to own the controlling interest in the White Sox. Reinsdorf, Jerry, has been chairman of the White Sox since purchasing the franchise in 1981. He remains the sole day-to-day decision maker for the club. This is kind of like agreeing to sell a brand new car. Well, no, this is like selling a car with 100,000 miles on it, but you're not going to sell it until it reaches 150,000 on the odometer. So you still need to trust that sole person behind the wheel for the next 50,000 miles. You're going to buy this car no matter how many dents or dings or transmissions it needs or repairs and fixes and oil changes that it requires. So there is that part of it. And yes, Reinsdorf has owned the team since I've been alive, 1981, a very long time. But as we've seen in recent seasons, this team does not necessarily have their ship pointed in the right direction, and the Ishbia family kind of has to ride that out if they want the chance to buy in. Quote, having the incredible opportunity to own the Chicago White Sox and be part of Major League Baseball for nearly 50 years has been a life-changing experience, said Reinsdorf. Quote, I have always expressed my intent to operate the White Sox as long as I am able and remain committed to returning this franchise to the level of on-field success we all expect and desire. Clearly, he recognizes, yes, things have not been so great as of late, and wants to get them back to, 2005 was when they won the World Series last, and have not had a ton of success since then. But he's basically saying there, I want to operate the White Sox as long as I'm able. So even when that window opens up, if you're the Ishbia family, you understand that he may have a different feeling and sentiment towards letting go. Even at that point, even though right now he's saying that window is opening up, he still kind of only has the option to make it happen during that window. Here are some other things, some ancillary things that you should know. Until February of this year, Justin Ishbia and his brother, to some degree, they were actually bidding to buy the Minnesota Twins, which officially went up for sale late last year. The Pohlad family, after many decades of owning that team, is ready to turn it over, and the Ishbia family, including Justin, were very much in talks and in conversations of taking over sole ownership of the Minnesota Twins. In February, Justin Ishbia reportedly backed out, and here we are. But the entire time, Justin and his brother Matt, who I'll tell you more about in just a second, they already owned smaller stakes in the Chicago White Sox. So to be very clear, this is not the Ishbias joining something brand new. To some smaller degree, they're technically already part of the White Sox ownership, but now they're going to start funneling in a lot more money, Justin is at least, to have the opportunity to get that controlling interest probably sometime in the 2030s. Matt Ishbia is the majority owner of the Phoenix Suns and of the Phoenix Mercury. That's why you've probably heard that name before. Even if this is a topic you don't necessarily pay attention to, Justin's brother, Matt, is very much knee-deep in owning professional sports teams, as in the Suns and in the Mercury. But Justin Ishbia also owns a part of a team, part of an MLS team. That team is Nashville SC. Yes, as in Nashville, Tennessee. As in where rumors of the White Sox departure have been connected to in recent years. Jerry Reinsdorf had said it himself about potentially moving this team if he couldn't get what he wanted out of Chicago and Illinois in terms of public subsidies. Nashville might be an option. And so I'm not here to start that rumor, fan that flame at all. I'm just making that connection to let you know people are going to be talking about that part of it. Justin Ishbia already has some connections owning professional sports teams in Nashville. Does that mean anything for the White Sox and their future and what stadium they do or don't get moving forward? Justin is also, though, a founding partner of Chicago's Shore Capital. So he's got Chicago connections. That's why a lot of this entirely makes sense. The point is that all these people and this family have a lot of connections, but there are some interesting ones between Chicago and obviously Nashville. There's also some interesting aspects of the entire situation that go like this. The White Sox, as you know, last year set a modern Major League Baseball record with 121 losses. They were beyond terrible last year. And guess what? This year, they are due to be surpassed. The Rockies are on pace for 130 losses, something like that. They may not get there, but they may also surpass the White Sox in more than 121 losses. So maybe the White Sox record of being the worst baseball team ever last year, maybe that will go away if the Rockies are, in fact, that bad this year. But that's not a good place to be when we're talking about selling a team, and obviously a bad recent history by the White Sox. Last summer, the White Sox pitched that 78 ballpark location on the South Loop. It is a great property for anything. I'm so surprised it remains undeveloped. And you know there's going to be residential and commercial there. The developer is called Related Midwest, but they obviously struck a deal with Chicago Fire FC and their ownership to build a brand new soccer-specific stadium on that site. The White Sox last summer were talking about putting their own stadium there. Remember when they did that pop-up? They built an entire baseball infield and a little bit of an outfield. They had the White Sox ground crew go out and install it just to show people what it looks like. And then they had them take batting practice and had them field ground balls. They were very excited about the 78. Problem is, they were also asking for a reported $1 billion in public subsidies. And so now how's this going to look when there's brand new ownership and brand new money invested and interjected into the franchise? It's going to be an even harder ask for the team to say, well, we still need $1 billion of public subsidies and we still want to go to that spot. Chicago Fire FC, they kind of just claimed that spot at the 78. So this is still a team that I think the overall picture you're getting painted here, bad in recent years, struggling on the field, trying for a new stadium. That's not necessarily happening in a turnkey fashion in Chicago. And yes, Nashville and Orlando, they're out there as suitors. There's a cloud of uncertainty to a degree surrounding the White Sox. Here's my takeaways. That was my little chime and theme, and I don't know, maybe we'll keep doing that. Maybe I'll stop doing that. The best way to describe all of this, like, it can't be described as a sale of the White Sox. That's not what's happening here. This is an exclusive purchase window opening up in 2029. But even to open up that window, the Ishbia family has to start buying in even more now to help with these capital infusions, to help the Reinsdorf family with some money and some opportunity. Maybe that leads to building a new stadium. Who knows? But the Ishbia family also here is part of this. Like, they really have to trust Jerry Reinsdorf at the wheel until then. I made that car analogy before. It literally is like that. This is an older car that can't be purchased until it gets another 50,000 miles on it. And until then, Jerry Reinsdorf is the only driver at the wheel, so to speak. And so this is an interesting situation. Usually, you want to buy into something right here, right now, because this is the price. Here's what I'd buy it for. Here's how this is going. You don't want things to float away and then the price to change or go up or down. You want to make this deal like right here, right now. You don't necessarily put a baseball team on layaway and then have the price change and the situation change. So this is very unique. And that leads me to believe that because this is all just framework and because this is all, it's a handshake, but it's more than that. It leads me to believe that the actuality of this happening might be about 50-50. Can't say yes, definitely can't say no. But it's not 100%. It's not even 75%. You probably have to label this as a 50-50 proposition. And look, I still believe in the potential of the White Sox. You can talk about relocation in Nashville and this and that in Orlando. Orlando has recently mentioned the White Sox. But let me say it like this. Chicago, big enough for two teams, should have a baseball game in Chicago every single day of the summer. The White Sox, when healthy, when doing their thing, when running and sprinting like the Cubs sometimes are running and sprinting, I know this dual market thing firsthand. If you have one team that's running away and sprinting so hard, and the other one's not even trying, it's going to be a very uphill battle for the team that's not trying or not doing it the right way over and over again. The White Sox have kind of been that, but there is potential for this team to capitalize on its history and the marketplace and some star players. We've seen when the White Sox were the biggest deal, one of the biggest deals in town. And there's always going to be the Bears and the Hawks and obviously the Bulls. When they all get good, I mean, those teams and their bandwagons get awfully full, but the White Sox equally have that capability in Chicago. I know it. I've seen it. I trust in it. I think this would be a good purchase, but you just have to be certain, if you're the Ishbia family, that when you ultimately take over, like, this franchise isn't going to be in a 20-foot hole. It's one thing if you got to fix this and that, you got to kind of dig them out a little bit. But if they are that deep in a trench, is it really even worth committing to buying right here, right now in 2025? Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Thumbs up while you're down there helps me, this video, and this channel. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I think it's down over there. That way I definitely get to see you back here on the channel next time.